Good morning, myself Kavi Priya. I have completed my BA in English Literature and I'm going to handle you English further. Today we are going to see chapter 1 from unit 1, The Portrait of a Lady by Khushwanth Singh. Khushwanth Singh is an Indian novelist and lawyer. He had joined Indian Foreign Service in 1947. As a writer, he is best known for his secularism, sarcasm, and love for poetry. He was awarded with Padma Bhushan in 1974 and Padma Vibhushan in 2004 by the Government of India. His notable works are The Mark of Vishnu, The Train to Pakistan, and Success Mantra. In The Portrait of a Lady, the writer, that is the Khushwanth Singh, speaks about his bonding with his grandmother, the beautiful bonding of a grandmother and her grandchild. The Portrait of a Lady is depicts about the beautiful bonding that a grandchild and her grandmother had, and the changes that takes place in the relationship over time. The author Khushwanth Singh gives a description about his grandmother, initially about her appearance, then about her character. About her appearance, she is very short, old, slightly bent, and she is always having jabamala. Then she looks very old, that she could not grow much older than that she is so old. It was difficult for him to even think she could have been young and pretty, she would have had a husband, etc. When the author describes about his grandfather's portrait that is hung on the wall, which means his grandfather is no more. The image of his grandfather says that he's very old man with a very long beard and with a turban, which no one will believe that he would have been a husband. The very look of him says that he is very old, he would have many grandchildren, etc. The Khushwanth Singh, when the Khushwanth Singh, that is the writer, was young, his parents left him in the care of his grandmother and went to city. There starts the beautiful bonding of the grandmother and the grandchild. Initially, they were very good friends. She woke him up every morning, bathed him, dressed him, and even prepared breakfast for him. The breakfast that she prepares is a stale buttered chapati with sugar sprinkled on it. She walked him to school, and along with him, she went to the school because the school was attached to a temple. She would sit inside the temple and read scriptures while Khushwanth Singh will be sitting in the veranda along with the other children and learning alphabets. That is, this depicts about the ancient Vedic system of education where the priest and the gurukuls will be teaching their disciplines in the veranda of the knowledge about the alphabets. But now, though, that system is not there. When they both are finished, they both will head back home. On their way, the grandmother used to feed the stray dogs with her chapati. Then, when the parents called the grandchild and the grandmother to stay with them in the city, the relationship between the grandmother and the grandchild started to deteriorate. The only thing they had in common that remained unchanged was the same bedroom that they both were sharing. Now, grandmother is not accompanying with her grandchild to the school because he is being taken in a school bus, and nor could he teach her, could she help him in his education because he is now shifted to an English medium education, and here the child started to believe in the modern scientific education, whereas the grandmother is still in the ancient traditional thoughts and she could not believe the science, facts, etc. This made her unhappy, but she remained silent. Only by meditating she was happy. Khushwanth Singh started to learning in school. This made her much upset. From then, the conversation between the grandmother and the grandchild even got worse. When the writer went to the university, the only thing they had in common was the bedroom. But that also changed after he went to the university. He was given a separate room while his grandmother was living in a separate room. That made the relationship even more worse. The only thing that the grandmother would be doing is spinning and feeding the sparrows. The grandmother would love feeding the sparrows. In her free time, she used to feed all the sparrows that comes there. Whenever the sparrows come, she would be much happier, as if that was the happiest moment of her life. Then, when the writer went abroad, she was praying. She went to the railway station along with him. She kissed his forehead, recited mantra, and she came back. The author thought that would be his last physical contact with his grandmother. That is the last time he is going to touch his grandmother. Because he is going to abroad, he will return only after 5 years. Anything may happen to her during this 5 years. That was the thought he thought. But that was the thought he had while he went to the abroad. But she was happy when her grandchild returned him, and he was happy to see his grandmother alive. In the very first day after the arrival of her grandchild, in the morning she prayed to God. In the evening, she collected women from the neighborhood, beat the drum, and sang for hours and hours for the return of warriors. That is the first time in her life she had ever missed her prayers. The next day, she was taken slightly ill. Though the doctors assured the family that nothing to worry, she stopped talking. She said that, and she believed that her end is near. She doesn't want to lose the end of her days without praying. She started praying despite the approval from her son and her grandchild to talk with them. She ignored all their requests and continuously praying to God. Suddenly, her lips stopped. Her hands and fingers didn't move. She is dead. After her death, thousands of sparrows came and sat quietly all around her body. When the writer's mother threw breadcrumbs, the sparrows took no notice of them. They just stood silent, mourning for the death of the grandmother. After the cremation, all the sparrows flew away without even touching the crumbs.